Always fun to catch up with Jordan Reid, senior NFL draft analyst for the Draft Network, LLC, and he joins the program now on a Wednesday. Jordan, how are you, man?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for taking the time. So I was looking over your most recent mock draft, and you have Jordan Love at 13, Utah State quarterback, going to the Colts. For all of our local sports fan listeners out there, what do you like most about that fit?
Well, I think he's a guy outside of Isaiah Simmons. I think of any prospect in this draft, I think landing spot is going to be so crucial to him just because that's what we see with all of these quarterbacks, just the environment that they're in. It's so crucial to the outlook of their career. And you see a guy like Patrick Mahomes, Carson Wentz, and some of these other guys that have been paired with creative offensive minds. I think Jordan Love has to be in that situation. And I don't think he's ready to be a player that's ready to step in and play right away. And they already have a guy there in Jacoby Brissett that I think can be a bridge gap guy. And there's already rumors that they may even take a look at Phillip Rivers. They may explore that situation. I still think either route they decide to take, I don't think that should deter them away from bringing in a young guy. So if they want to pair Jordan Love with a Phillip Rivers or even a Jacoby Brissett, I think that would be a really good situation for him. And then they also have a great offensive mind at the helm in Frank Reich. So I really like him being under the tutelage of Reich as well.
9 Utes heading to the Combine, which is a big number, certainly, and a lot of people excited to see what happens with the local prospects as they move next level. I want to ask you specifically about Zack Moss, who we've had, as you know, Jordan, we've had a lot of good running backs come through Salt Lake. Zach's probably the best of the bunch. He's very complete. Yeah. Not a lot of things that he cannot do. Where do you see him going, generally speaking, and what kind of pro do you think he'll be?
I think third round, late second round, early third round. I think that's a fair range for him. We'll see what the medicals say about him, just because he's a guy that's had his fair share of injuries. And I think if he didn't have those type of injuries, I think he definitely would be entrenched in the tier one for the first tier of this running back class. The first tier is obviously DeAndre Swift, Jonathan Taylor, and some other guys as well. But as far as, the tier that he's in right now, I think he's right at the head of that second tier. So you're talking about a late second or early third round pick, but I just love everything that he brings to the table as far as height, weight, speed, and size. I think he definitely brings all of that to the forefront. And then he's been so consistent throughout his career. And like you said, I think he's easily one of the best players, offensive players that's come through the program and program history. And then, he's been Mr. Reliable. Every time the Utes need a big play or, they need him to come through in the clutch, he has been able to do that.
The first Ute that you have being drafted with your mock drafts, and we'll let our listeners where they know where they can go to consume all your content, Jordan, is Jalen Johnson to the Broncos at 46. We have a lot of Bronco fans here in our market due to the proximity, which, of course, would make them very happy. But what do you like most about Jalen, and what do you like most about that fit?
Well, I like him being in a Vic Fangio system, and we know that Vic is known for being a very creative defensive mind. And he's had some really good cornerbacks in the past, even going back to his days with the Bears when that defense was playing really well. He was able to transcend Kyle Fuller and get him to turn the corner. And even a guy like a Prince Amukamara, he got him to play at a high level as well. And I think Jalen Johnson needs a little bit of seasoning. He has been a bit inconsistent as far as with his technique. And then I think his development is right on track of where he needs to be. But he goes into a situation where he can step in and play right away. There in Denver, I think that would be a great situation for him. And he's a terrific scheme fit as well. So that's something that I really like about that fit.
How do you grade the two big boys up front, Lecky Fotu and Bradley Anai?
So Anai had a really good week down at the Senior Bowl, and I was paying really close attention to him just because I actually was watching Utah against USC, and I actually was studying Austin Jackson, the USC offensive tackle, and Bradley Anai was just absolutely destroying him throughout that game. So that's really where I really got my first introduction to Anai and exactly what he brings. But I love his mature hands. I think that's something that he's really good at, and I think he was by far one of the best defensive ends down there. And, he was just crushing guys left and right. And then in the game, you saw how well he played as well. Lecky Fotu, unfortunately, he didn't get to play during the week of practices, but I did get a chance to talk to him during media day. Very good personality, very mature, big-time family. He's a big family guy as well, has a bunch of brothers that plays football as well. So he's just a football guy. He loves being around the game. Extremely massive human being. He's every bit of 6'5", 340 pounds, but he doesn't look it. And his body is very impressive and is very well put together, and I think his game does translate well to that. I would like to see him be a bit better of a pass rusher. I think that's something where he does need to develop and get a bit better at. but I think he's definitely going to be a day 2 selection.
I think Francis Bernard did a lot this year to answer some questions about whether or not he could play on Sundays. I don't know what sort of career he has ahead of him, Jordan, but when you watch him play and analyze his NFL potential, what would you say to our listeners?
Well, he was a bit inconsistent, but I thought he finished really strong, and that's something that you want to see. He started off 14 games last year, and that's something that you want to see, especially with these guys getting better as their career goes along. He was a first-team All-Pac-12 selection as a senior, so that's something that you love to see, and I thought his development really took the next step, the next level. He does have some athletic limitations. I think that's something that is associated with his game, but something that is a positive about his game is just how instinctive and how smart he is. So I think that's something that's definitely working in his favor.
Does before the start of the season, I don't know that anybody would have believed that Tyler Huntley would even get a look or a shot or a sniff, but he played so well and evolved so much that I've got to believe somebody out there just at least looks at him. Jordan, what would you say about the NFL prospects for Tyler Huntley?
Yeah, and he's an interesting case. It's really unfortunate that he didn't get a combine invite. I was kind of disappointed about that just because I think some teams probably were going to ask him to not only play quarterback, maybe to see him at receiver and also running back as well, just because it may be a situation where he ends up like a Braxton Miller type situation where he was just kind of experimenting with a lot of things. And I think he does have the tools in order to be a quarterback. Maybe that's a down-the-line guy like a Tyrod Taylor or something like that. I think he can turn into something of that nature. But as far as being an athletic specimen, I think he could have exuberated himself a little bit more to these teams. He could have showed off himself a bit more at the combine. So that was a bit unfortunate. But I thought he definitely took tremendous strides in his development last year.
Last thing, Jordan, then we'll set you loose. I like Tua. It doesn't make me unique. I know a lot of people do. Does Cincinnati do anything other than Joe Burrow? Could they look at Tua, or is it a no-brainer that's where they're going?
I think it's no-brainer with Burrow unless Burrow and his father just come out and say they pull Eli Manning and just say they're not going to play in Cincy. I just don't see that happening with him being a hometown kid, being from that area. So I think that's the only way they don't select Burrow.
All right, man. Hey, thanks for the time today. Always appreciate it. Keep up the good work. We'll make sure that we put all of your links on our socials to get our listeners there, and we'll chat again soon, man. Be well, Jordan.
No problem. Thank you as always.